Good morning. We're going to get started. No, your eyes don't deceive you. No, I haven't been promoted. I'm just now the senior staff of the assessment department and who isn't on vacation. So you're looking at Kim Rathke. We're going to go ahead and get started today with our assessment director meeting. We have a lot of stuff to go over today, as always, and we really appreciate those of you who are in the room. And we appreciate those of you who are online. Emily is monitoring the questions, and we also have some specialists in the room who are also monitoring questions. Remember our rules. If you're going to ask a question, we are going to hand you the mic because it really drives people crazy. We have Shar in the back of the room holding up signs like repeat the question, so hopefully everybody is on the same page. And so the first thing we're going to do is introduce some of the new people that are joining the assessment department at USBE. And so we have Rebecca Peterson and Emily Hampton-Berry. Why don't you guys come up for a second? Rebecca Peterson is our new college and career readiness specialist, and she's going to be in charge of ACT. And you want to tell them anything about yourself? They made me do it. You have to.
So I'm excited to be able to work with you guys with ACT and college and career readiness. I've been at USBE previously. In another role as the director of the UMTSS program, and just am right now transitioning between that role and the college and career readiness position. I'm kind of in a hybrid mode right now, doing both jobs. I'll officially take over in September 2nd, but for now, you can still reach me my same email address if you have my contact information through UMTSS, but it's rebecca.peterson@schools.utah.gov. So if you have questions, suggestions, things that you need, feel free to reach out. So I'm under assessment, but previously I was the director. Oh, college and career readiness. Yeah, and ACT. Online. So online people, it's college and career readiness, which encompasses ACT. And my email address, if you need it, is rebecca.peterson, P-E-T-E-R-S-O-N, @schools.utah.gov. Please reach out to me with questions, suggestions, things that you may have. Yes, Rebecca is R-E-B-E-C-C-A. Good question, because there's lots of ways to spell it. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Emily.
I'm Emily Berry, and I'm the new David, which is how I'm being referred to. So I'm in assessments. I'm the data specialist in assessments. So.
Emily's going to be running UTREX, answering all your UTREX questions and special codes and anything else that David, I'm sure, is going to tell us about later. So anybody have any questions? What? Oh, Emily's doing everything, right, David? Okay. Yeah. Talk about hazing people. She started Monday. Okay. One thing you do need to know is in our slide deck, and we will fix this before we post it, IT is changing Emily's. She is a hyphenated last name, but they're just changing it to Emily.Berry instead of Emily.Hampton-Berry. So when you see the slides, her email is changing, but you'll be able to figure that out. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Should be clicking. And now it's not clicking. Yeah. We tested this like 10 seconds ago. Oh, there it went. I clicked it too many times. Okay, we're going to go ahead and have Emily talk to you about some SAGE data.
Okay, so SAGE data, it's coming. We're planning to have it available on the 25th of August and then push it to public on September 15th. And everything still seems to be on track. We'll cross our fingers. And then UTREX data, so just an overview. Your SIS information goes in through a validation process, and then it's uploaded to UTREX, which then pushes out to the tests. And the two tests that have been added this year are DIBELS and KEEP. So basically, if your student information is not being uploaded into UTREX, it's probably back at your SIS system that's got an issue, so contact your SIS person.
And Michelle? We're up to accountability now. Just a really quick reminder, we are getting inundated with emails from people. Why is my UTEPS not working? Why is my Utah Compose not working? Why can't I get into DIBELS, as you all know? So it would be really helpful even if you would message out that remember that all of that stuff comes from you first and then to us, because we're getting lots of angry emails from teachers like, why can't I find and we're like, well, it hasn't been uploaded yet. So that's the reason for the slide. People online, would you please mute your computers?
Hi, everyone. You're not rid of me yet. The SURF, the question was, when is the SURF going to be available, the 16-17 SURF? I don't have an exact date for that yet. That's the big thing that needs to go in for that is the 2016-17 SAGE data, which we are still working on getting loaded. And as Emily said, we're planning on having available so that it's visible on the data gateway by August 25th. So it would be sometime after that, I would guess probably the next week. Yeah. Okay. Other question? Yes, Teresa. Oh. Okay. So, okay, Teresa says that her schools, at least her districts, have been, everything is in UTREX and that USBE is dropping the ball. Oh. I'm going to, well, that's the way it's supposed to work, right? And I've checked, yeah. Okay. For just those specific systems, or is anything coming into Sage Portal? Okay. I'll have to check because I asked IT if those extracts were being generated, and they said, yes, they are. We're sending something to Utah Compose. We're sending something onto UTIPS. I will have to look in those specific circumstances to make sure that that's happening. Okay. Okay, yeah, I'll have to check and confirm because, like I said, I asked IT about it yesterday, and they said, yeah, we're sending them, so everything should be working. So if it's not, we'll look into it and hopefully resolve quickly.
I know on UTIPS, I talked to Doug yesterday, and he says everything should have populated like the night of the 7th. So you may see stuff today. I haven't checked. I got here and had to do this. So, but you may check, Teresa. It may have loaded today. Okay, maybe tomorrow. It takes about 48 hours from the time it gets here. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll check with Evelyn too.
Hey, everyone good? Okay. Hi, I'm Anne-Michelle Neal. If you haven't met me yet, I am the accountability specialist. I'm going to talk a little bit about 11th grade accountability from last year's testing and a couple of other things related to accountability. And then probably a little bit about WIDA right after. WIDA's at the end. Well, then I'll see you again at the end. Okay. You can hear me. Thank you, sure. Okay. So if you remember, right, 11th graders last year, SAGE was optional. We administered the ACT. It was elective if you wanted to administer SAGE to 11th graders. So through a lot of discussion with the board not with the board, but with the Center for Assessment and our leadership, we were trying to figure out what do we do with those SAGE tests for 11th graders that were given. Approximately 50% of LEAs decided to administer SAGE in 11th grade, maybe certain tests, maybe to all students, depending on what was useful for your district. But the decision that we arrived at was that 11th grade SAGE tests would not be factored into accountability calculations. There are a couple of rationale for this. One is that in order for accountability to be comparable statewide, it didn't make sense for some schools to have SAGE scores in their accountability calculations and some not. So we wanted everyone to sort of have the same variables in their accountability rating. The other thing is that we didn't want to advantage or disadvantage LEAs in unforeseen ways by including SAGE if tests were given. One thing to note is that if a student did take SAGE, you will have access to their scores just as you would in any other individual student report. So for whatever reason that you did give SAGE, those students who did have score reports and show up in the ways they have traditionally so that that data can be used to make decisions and inform instruction. Yes? They won't be factored into accountability, right? But you will have the data because the data is valuable to you for what that's why I assume they're on the data gateway. Yes, just not in accountability. Yes, thank you for clarifying that. They will show up in the data gateway. You'll have access to their scores in all the other ways. They just are not going to be included in the accountability calculations. Yes. Yes, so this coming year, 11th graders, SAGE will be available. It's similar to last year. It's an opt-in, and it was in the last AD memo that was sent out last night that if you want to test 11th graders, that should go into your assessment plans that are due on the 15th. You want to say something else, David? Okay.
What that means specifically is for 11th graders, we are going to send to SAGE portal basically the test triggers that will trigger interim and benchmarks automatically. So you don't need to tell us if you want to do benchmarks for 11th grade. What we're talking about is if you want the summative tests available as well. We are planning on not sending those unless you tell us that you want those available for your district, and then we will send them. And Michelle's sharing this because they are going to be completely, any 11th grade SAGE summative that you do is going to be completely excluded from accountability. But you can use them if you want them for any sort of pedagogical purposes.
There's a question. Okay. Go ahead.
The 12th graders, the question was what's going to be of the 12th graders and what tests are going to be triggered in SAGE portal for that. And that's one that we've discussed and I don't think we have an answer for just yet. In the past, we sent 12th graders and we said, you know, if they took the test before, they don't need to take it again. But if this is their first opportunity to take the test, then they should take the test and we're going to count it against you if you don't. But that obviously gets complicated by what if, you know, the previous year you had opted them out because they were an 11th grader. So it's like they could have taken chemistry. Now they're a 12th grader. They're doing chemistry again. Is it fair? Do they have to take the chemistry test now, even though last year they didn't? We don't have a decision on that yet. We're trying to think what is the most fair, basically. And we haven't gotten that far in the discussion yet. As far as like the data exchange is concerned, I think we are planning on just sending them normally. So they'll be in there with the summative. I don't know what we're going to do for accountability yet, though.
Okay. Thank you. There's a question online about participation for 11th graders and how it affects participation. So SAGE participation will not be required. Participation rates will be calculated for ACT because ACT is a required assessment for 11th grade. not SAGE. SAGE is optional if you want to use it for, like the way David said it, pedagogical purposes. Okay, any other questions related to 11th grade and how it will be considered in accountability? And it will be the same for the 17-18 school year. That summative will be available if you choose to give it. Let's see. So skip the slide. Okay, so just another review of what's changing in accountability. Rather than accountability systems being based on participation, yes, but proficiency, growth, and graduation rate, ESSA and Senate Bill 220 introduced new indicators that include EL progress. So English learner progress is now part of accountability. It's been moved from Title III into Title I. What we're calling what is equitable educational opportunity, which we're defining as performance of the lowest 25% of students in a school. So showing that you're targeting the lowest performing students in the school regardless of their demographic profile and the growth that those students make. So the growth of the lowest 25% of school, of students in the school. And also post-secondary readiness is expanding to not just be graduation rate, but we're looking at rates of passing advanced coursework and earning an ACT score of 18 or higher. There are going to be reported indicators. This is like happy. Additional reported indicators that will come out on your school report card, but they don't actually go into the point calculations or things like early literacy for grades 1 through 3, or I think maybe even K2. I think I may have typed that wrong. For K2, looking at DIBELS and the KEEP assessment. AP exam performance. Okay, there's a question online. I think that was science is grade 4 through 8. Thank you. This is really clicky. Okay. ELA and math grades 3 through 8. We're going to, I assume someone else is going to talk about 9th and 10th grade assessment later. Okay, not me. Okay, good. And science grades 4 through 8. Does that clarify? Okay. Back to reported indicators, we're looking at early literacy, AP exam performance. The difference is that advanced coursework participation, we're using the criteria of passing the course with a C or better as the measurement or the metric for calculating points in the accountability system. But we are going to report exam performance. The rationale for that is it's more fair to look at passing courses because not every student who takes an AP class can afford to or ends up taking the AP exam, for example. And it varies with concurrent enrollment, what that end of course exam looks like, those kinds of things. So we're looking at passing the course with a C or better. We will report AP exam performance, disaggregated groups that participate in those kinds of advanced coursework, and looking at school quality, where we'll come up with, we have several proposals for indicators that you as schools and LEAs can choose and report and have appear on your school report card as your own self-selected goals, measures of school quality, up to 2 of those, and working with leadership on the board to develop that. Okay, school grades, we went through a standard setting process to establish cut scores for school grades. Yeah. Okay. Graduation rates. What are the issues and expectations? The percent of students who graduate with their cohort is how that's calculated. Also, we're allowing up to 10% of the points, which is like 2.5 points for graduation rate, to be factored for anyone who graduates in the fifth year. I'm not sure if that clarifies or makes more confusing the graduation rate, but this post-secondary readiness indicator is calculated by cohort. So it sort of acts as a delayed indicator of the way that graduation rate has functioned in the past. It applies the year after the year of accountability, if that makes sense. Because we have to wait to see how all these students do on their ACT and if they graduate, and then it's applied to, it's kind of a delayed indicator. Oh, I changed this. Yeah, ignore that. Okay. It should say Sage 410. Yes. Thank you for catching that. This is an old version. Yes. Okay, we look at the WIDA access, and the question was, how is EL growth calculated? We look at the WIDA access, and we look for a 0.4 increase over the year prior in proficiency level. So if they were at a proficiency level of 3.0, if they reach a proficiency level of 3.4, that's considered adequate growth for the year. Mm-hmm. It is a nice place we landed and felt comfortable with establishing adequate growth. WIDA doesn't define adequate growth. They do a lot of research about what the trajectory for students looks like across learning proficiency, and we have the expectation that students should be proficient between 7 to 9 years, maybe 7 to 10 years. But we've decided on 0.4 for this particular indicator. We have 3 years of WIDA administration, so we can calculate. I guess this year, this 2017, has the question is this year a baseline? And with the adjustments to the scoring changes in WIDA, yes, this year was the baseline, which means that next year we will be able to calculate. Right, we're looking at 2017 to 2018, and the 0.4 proficiency level growth will be considered adequate. So the points are awarded based on the percentage of students who make 0.4 proficiency levels of growth on the WIDA access. Is that clear? Okay. We went through quite a rigorous standard setting process for school grades, which many of you were a part of. The school grades were presented to the board, and those cut scores were approved, and we will share those with you, the cut scores for A schools, B schools, et cetera. The thing we want to emphasize, however, is I think the descriptors and what does an A school look like, and being an exemplary school, a commendable school, a typical school, et cetera. The indicators lead to an overall score for elementary schools or grades 3 through 8 in this way, where English learner growth and growth of the 25% sort of make up this priority of equity. And then we look at growth and achievement and look at it and calculate an overall rating. High school adds in the post-secondary readiness indicator. This is stuff that you have seen before. Okay, state plan updates for ESSA. Let's see. Okay. A 6 through 9 middle school model is not considered a high school. They will follow the elementary middle school accountability system. So post-secondary readiness only factors in for schools that have a 12th grade. Okay. We have a September 15th target release date for accountability as we have in the past. The intention is to give you a few days some lead time to view your own accountability school grades before they're released to the public. So ESSA state plan updates. I've been involved with ESSA writing team. If you want to look at what is on the public website, it's uen.org/ESSA. Public feedback was collected and reviewed and summarized, and things that were relevant we've considered in revisions. It's been presented by the board. The next step is that it goes to the governor's office for 30 days, and that's where it is now, where it's sitting now. for review by the governor, and then it's submitted to the Department of Ed on September 18th. Mm-hmm. I have to confirm with Patty. My recommendation, my suggestion is that that will be the release date for LEAs, and then we'll delay public release a few days after that. And we'll make sure that that's really clear for you in an AD memo about when you can expect to see accountability reports prior to public release. I'm not sure yet. That's the tricky part, is are we under old law or are we under new law? And new law doesn't specify. So with all board policy, that who knows? I don't, does that answer your question? Okay, we have the target date of September 15th. We do hold very sincerely and understand your need to see the data first. So if that means we have to delay public release by a few days so that you have the ability to see that first, we'll do so. I think a good lawyer could argue for either way. So I think there is flexibility under statute for us to release to the public later than September 15th, if that's clear. But we will get clarification from leadership and make sure that that's shared with you. Is that a sufficient answer to the question? Okay. But we do understand that you need to see the accountability reports first before it's released to the public. And that we will hold to regardless of if that public release is on September 15th or after. Okay. We are looking for the ESSA state plan, we are looking for feedback specifically from assessment directors and Title I directors. There is a survey link that was sent out yesterday in the AD memo. Specifically, we're going to go over the the identification and exit criteria for CSI schools and TSI schools. This is not CSI CSI Miami. CSI stands for Comprehensive Support and it's not intervention, improvement. Comprehensive Support and Improvement and Targeted Support and Improvement. Previously, these were sort of like being a Title I priority and focus school, but the criteria for identification and exiting that status and receiving extra support is a little different. And we want to have your input into what those criteria should be. We have potential dates. This is like next week. So Wednesday in the evening, Thursday we have an afternoon time and an evening time available, and Friday morning. So we'll decide one of those times to meet based on participant availability and interest. So if you want to come in and have some deep input into what goes into the ESSA state plan for CSI and TSI schools for school improvement, please fill out the survey by Friday so that we can select a date, get that out to everybody. I think it will be a really engaging meeting and a really meaningful way for you to have really direct input and into and share what's important to you and what makes sense for LEAs to be put into the state plan. Any questions about ESSA? Okay.
Okay, high school assessments, a hot topic. Here we go. As you know, ACT Aspire is not happening. And so SAGE is happening for grades 9 and 10. If you already filled out your testing plan prior to today or prior to the fact that the board officially said no for Aspire because of, all the stuff that happened, we will reopen the survey for the plan because, as we'll hear later in our conversation, this is how you submit your testing plan for the year. So if you already submitted it, like Ralph said, oop, I submitted it, and then I realized we weren't going to do this, and he tried to go back in and he won't, we will reopen it. So if anybody did, you can go back in and so we can get it fixed. As an LEA, the biggest question you want to answer is whether or not you are going to have your 11th graders take the SAGE summative test. And the question, it's question number 8 on the survey. They are optional, but you can let us know if you're planning on doing it so that we can make sure AIR and everybody knows. Yes? This is your overriding district plan, okay? So as far as whether, I think the 11th grade assessment, somebody correct me if you're wrong, I think that that's a district, like if one school does it, everybody does it, just like with ACT. Am I right about that, guys? Pretty much that's the way I understood it, so, okay. Sometimes I get asked questions and I'm like, I think so, but then I want to make sure. All right, any questions about that? Yes, Logan. That is a question I don't know. David, have you heard anything in accountability, you guys, about whether or not it's going to be optional like that? Can they choose to do like just 11th grade ELA or 11th grade math or 11th grade science only? Or do they have to do all 11th grade SAGE? Does anybody know for accountability, or because this is where it's going to matter? Do they have to do, if they're doing SAGE, it's optional. Do they have to do all 11th grade, or can they choose it by subject? Does anybody know? Okay, so Logan, we will have the conversation and we'll find out. Right, right.
My preference, and I believe the way it functioned last year, is that you can opt in by subject. And okay, and so that was the information I had was that if you can opt in for 11th grade by subject and even by student, by test. That's how it works. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's accurate. You opt in by test. We can look at the survey and make sure that it allows you. Okay.
I'll do it. I'll put another question in today that kind of says which tests, so we can just do it that way. I mean, I don't think that's a big deal. We have to reopen the survey anyway for people who've already done it. Just make sure you turned it in by September 15th, okay? No, this is a totally different part. This is my part. I don't care about that part. This is my part. Please turn it in by September 15th so that we can start, so I can do my part because their part lasts later. Really quickly about the testing ethics policy. We appreciate the fact that a lot of districts and schools for opening institutes and everything have, they go through the ethics policy and everything. It is going to be changed. The board is looking at adding some features to it. So if you have already done ethics training as part of your opening, you are going to have to do it again after the board sends us the final information. We will, of course, provide you with the new PowerPoint. They are still looking at some more information. They want to clarify the opt-out problem that we have with some of the issues with who's counting things on grade, some of the issues that we have with opt-out. That's what the board is still looking at, and they will be making that decision hopefully in the September board meeting. But that's when it's planning on it. So if you provided that ethics policy, it's really important that you get the water to the end of the road. If principals have done it and already had teachers sign in, they're going to have to do it again when the new policy comes. They'll have to have another meeting and do it. And actually a lot of schools kind of do it twice a year anyway. They do it at the beginning of the year and then they do it right before they do any sort of, like right before the summative test. SAGE training dates. We sent these out yesterday. They've been sent, we hope to get them posted on the website. I don't know if they're there yet or not, but it's a table, so we have some issues with it. All of these, we want to make sure that you know about our trainings. Remember September 5th. Did I skip a slide? I did. Sorry, I clicked it too fast. Yes. There will be new forms, there will be new everything. We have to update everything according to board rules, so everything will be changed. And that's why we just want to let everybody have a heads up that if you've already done it, great, because you're doing it, but remember, it's not final, so you're going to have to change it. So thanks, Rebecca. Yes. 7th and 8th. So you'll know, as soon as we know, our goal is to try to get that out to you as fast as possible, but unfortunately, you know, the oxen are slow, but the earth is patient. So that's kind of how we work it. New assessment directors training. Remember, that's August 29th. It's going to be here in this room. It's a general overview of all things assessment. This isn't SAGE training. That's the following week. This is for anybody who has new people who you think need a good overview for everything to do with assessment. So that doesn't necessarily have to be just ADs. You may have somebody new in your office that you're kind of working with, that if you think this would be valuable, it's a really good day to come, because we hit everything sort of a snapshot for the day, and that will be that day. You can register at the SurveyMonkey that's right here. As you all know, MIDAS is coming up eventually, and so that's how we're doing our registration for that. So please let us know who's coming. It will be 9 to 3 in this room. Lunch will be, of course, on your own. So. And and that's important to remember too. It's not going to be recorded. It's not going to be recorded. So it's in person, or you're going to miss out. SAGE administration training, our official SAGE systems training, which is all things SAGE, will be September 5th at the Jordan Auxiliary Center. We tried to pick a location that's kind of middle so that people could find it. And we will be doing our usual updates only. That will be recorded on our Wednesday webinar the following day. So that's really for all things new. Hopefully, we know. Obviously, we won't know anything about the ethics policy, but but we will know everything else about the SAGE. Anything that's new. Again, there's a link for you to register. Anybody have any questions about SAGE trainings? Yes. Sure. Oh, the question was about whether or not some of the money that they receive for Aspire, what happens with that? I don't know. That would be a question. Do you know? Okay. Here, you know what? I'm gonna let Sherry answer the question with the mic.
So I posed that question after Rob brought it up originally to Patty, and I'm just trying to pull her exact response. She said that it followed the, she said, I would love to be able to say yes about this, but unfortunately, according to state statute, we have to use the money according to how it was approved during the education appropriations. At our next Standard and Assessment Committee board meeting, we're going to discuss if there is an opportunity to go back to the legislature and ask for a change in statute. So for right now, just holding pattern. That's right.
Thank you, Sherry. Any other questions? Anything online? Okay. Oops. All right. We're going to talk about DIBELS and KEEP. And Sarah Whitkey's here representing, Heather is covering a meeting for Sydney today, so that's why Heather's not here too. Sarah's here because that's what we do.
That's right. Hello, everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm Sarah Whitkey, the K-3 literacy specialist up in teaching and learning. So lovely to meet all of you if I haven't met you yet. So I'm sure you're all familiar with KEEP and DIBELS and probably don't want to hear about it, but we're going to talk about it anyway. So the data gateway is open and available for both right now. And as of yesterday afternoon, if you are a district that is choosing to upload from another system for your KEEP, I know some districts were wondering when that would be available. It was available as of yesterday afternoon. So kind of a heads up on that if you were one of those LEAs that did call about that. It does have to be submitted for teachers to see the students. So kind of like I believe Kim said earlier, the biggest problem, 95% of the issues we've had is that either
your district or charter has not set up the automated nightly or bi-nightly, however often you do it, roll into. And so because of that, teachers are freaking out and they're like, I don't see my kids. And I'm like, I can't fix it. So sorry though. So if you could get with your, I don't know if you call them your IT department, your UTREX department, I don't know what you call them in your area, but whatever you call them, if you could please contact them, let them know that it's really best if that you do have a teacher or someone contacting you and they're not seeing their data, whether this is for KEEP or DIBELS. If they're not seeing their data, even if they're not seeing some of it, like they're not seeing classes but they see students, I really recommend they contact our UTREX helpline, which if you don't have that phone number, it's 801-538-7800. One more time, is that what you said? 801-538-7800. And they're all going to be like, thanks a lot, sir. You're welcome. That's job security. So the materials, if you're wanting the materials for KEEP and the KEEP alternate assessment, and so for those of you who aren't familiar with that, for students who are significantly cognitively impaired, we do have a KEEP alternate assessment, which we rolled out at the same time, and the trainings were pretty much on most of the same days that we had our regular KEEP training. And we do also, just a reminder, we do have a DIBELS alternate training, or alternate assessment. It seems like some LEAs are still unaware of this, and we still have some untested students coming in, so we shouldn't have that. We should be taking the alternate. Question online? Right. No, you are doing everything correct. The board requested that we do not collect social emotional data at this time. It will just show up in a long list of all the kindergartners in your school if they are not assigned, which is fine. Yep. So you're not doing anything wrong if it does look like that. Yep.
With that, this is like one of the first time ever that you're going to enter your alternate assessment kiddos in the same place you enter your regular kiddos. So you're going to see all kindergartners though in both tabs. So just be aware of that and make sure your teachers are very aware that kind of like the rest of our alternates kids just kind of get sent there by themselves. You'll have everybody.
Thanks, Tracy. The materials are up online at our assessment department, and I know our new website is a little tricky to get around in. I don't know if you've been on it lately, but I find it difficult and I work here. So if you go to the assessment department and then go to assessments, and then you click on the kindergarten tab, you'd be able to see the KEEP information. And we are trying to get the videos up. Emily, do you have an update on, do we have the videos up? I haven't looked today. Nope. Okay, so we are trying to get the videos up online so that you will have access to the training things that we were using and the modules of how to put data into Data Gateway. So just a heads up on that as well. Oh, I didn't even click. So state rostering. So for those of you that have already started, if you are an Amplify customer, we've already started. So you can go to the Utah Amplify page on their front, on their homepage for help. Or you can, like I said, call the UTREX desk. They've been very helpful for me lately. It's very critical that the directions to enrollment are followed, because what we're noticing is sometimes, and it's usually teachers that are calling us. And so when we tell them, oh, you know, blah, 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 UTREX, and they're like, the what now? So I'm trying to find a better way to help them in understanding what UTREX is and how all that data works and what an SIS system is. So it's been a little bit tricky, a little bit of a hurdle. But making sure that those files are rostered and sent, because sometimes they are rostered, but then the sent didn't happen yet, or there were errors, and so because the errors didn't make it all the way to UTREX. So those are 95% of the problems that we've seen have been that. If you have any questions, you are also welcome to contact the Amplify customer care team if you think it's something on the Amplify side that needs to be fixed, and they are happy to help you. We did do a name change. One of the school districts that enrolled early was asking us if we could change the teacher names from last name to first initial instead of first and then last. So we did change that. So just a heads up on that as well. And then there are DIBELS or Pathways of Progress trainings going on currently. The next one is tomorrow at AISU. If you are, these are invited to, anyone can attend. So these are just the locations. It doesn't mean you can only attend the one that's by you. You can attend any of those. feel free to send those out. And Heather Gross has been over setting these up, so she has all the exact locations and times and all that for you if you are looking for more information on those. Oh, question, yep. Oh, yes. If you are a DMG customer, we are still working with Joshua Wallen from DMG to get the pass keys and making sure. What we don't want to do is, because DMG system is very different from Amplify, what we don't want to do is mess up their previous data, their historical data. And because of the way their system is set up, we had to ensure with Joshua that the SSIDs are in the primary ID column for DMG, and that has taken, well, a couple months now. We've been working on that with him. So we're trying to make sure that that is happening before we enter data, because we're worried that if we enter data before that happens, that there may be a data issue. We don't want that to happen, so that's why it has been delayed. So please be patient with us. I know if you're a DMG customer, you're testing paper pencil, so it doesn't stop you from testing. You can still test right now. It would just be a little pause in when you can enter the actual data. So kind of a heads up on that. We are working with that. I will let you know when that is complete, or Sid or Heather, someone in the assessment department will let you know. But we are working on that right now. David, do we have any other information yet that we can share? Okay, that's where we're at. Okay. And then we're going to have some DIBELS trainings this fall for DIBELS reporting. Those trainings are going to be slightly different. And instead of just focusing on pathways of progress, they're going to be focusing on this is how you read the data, this is how you use the data, this is what it means. So it's a lot about data and how to look at it, how to use it, how it affects your instruction. So we will include some pieces on pathways of progress, some pieces on progress monitoring, but it will be mainly on how to look at your data. And so those are going to be all in October. And if you notice, again, you are invited to any of these, so you don't have to attend the one only in your area. Come to any of them if you want. They will be 2-day trainings. And with the 2-day trainings, we're going to be looking at, one day would be just for leaders like yourselves, and another day would be for teachers. So we're hoping that you would bring a team with you. Beginning of your window for DIBELS. Of course, the testing would be whenever your first day of school is, and I'm sure for all of you it's different. So whatever your first day of school until September 30th, those are your benchmark windows. Oh, this is awfully clicky. You're right. Okay. And then the DIBELS alternate assessment. So beginning of year, again, beginning of school year to September 30th, same window. It's for students who qualify to take that alternate because DIBELS is non-appropriate assessment for them. And Tracy is the one you contact if you are looking for information on that or copies or anything like that. Anything else you want me to add on that, Tracy? Oh, yes. Oh, sigh. I'm sure you all know about the website and why we can't put anything up, and we are very sorry for this. It is an inconvenience, but we are all happy to email you whatever you need at any time. Just let us know.
All right. I can see that. Okay. So quick DLM update. There's not a whole lot to share with you. Oh, see, it is. All right. So we're still doing year-end model this year, which means students will test one time a year, just a summative. So that window is March 12th through June 8th. Teachers can test at any point throughout that window. Instructionally embedded, that mid-year window is optional again, so teachers can do that. They have to go in and create those instructional plans. And that window opens September 20th through February 28th. So they are able to do that. There's a couple new things for 2017-2018 in the educator portal system. Reports. So this year, teachers should have the individual student reports delivered through educator portal as well as your guys' reports as well. So everybody should be able to access that. And there is a new report archive that DLM is doing, which is really super awesome. So any of your teachers will be able to go in and plug in their student information and get archived individual student reports for their students back to the 2015-16 school year. So that's a really nice feature for teachers. And they will only be able to see the students that are currently rostered to them. So they won't get reports from previous students, but any of their kiddos that they currently have. So that's a great instructional component that they've added this year. Educator Portal User Guide, you can find more information. You can tell your teachers. That's where they can find more information on how to access those reports. It'll give them the screenshots and step-by-step instructions on that. Braille, for any of your teachers that have kiddos taking Braille in DLM, both eBay and UEB will be available this year. So that's something that they will need to still mark in their PNP in Educator Portal and just designate which Braille form they want. Test information page, which your teachers hopefully are all aware of, they've moved that location. They've moved it next to the test tickets, which is where they pull their student passwords and usernames. So it's a much better location and easier for teachers to find this year. So that's a really great update that they did with DLM. Kite Client will have a new updated version. It is supposed to be an automated update that happens when teachers go ahead and open up the browser, but supposed to is an optional word sometimes for DLM. So just be aware of that, though. If it doesn't, you'll need to go into Kite Suite and get the new downloadable secure browser. So you'll need to have that put on computers before students can access any testing, and that should be available by August 31st. And that's it. Any questions? Anything? Alternate assessment?
Okay, just a few updates about WIDA. The screener online is now available. I've had quite a bit of inquiry and phone calls about WIDA screener and how do you make the transition to screener online. The WAPT will be available on the WIDA website through the end of the month. So if you need to download materials to administer the WAPT in the beginning of the year while you make the transition to screener online, know that those materials will be available until the end of August, and then they're being taken off the WIDA website. Continue to use the kindergarten WAPT or the kindergarten model if you have it for kindergartners, as the screener online is only for grades 1 through 12. A few things that are important to understand is that the new screener online is aligned with the more rigorous proficiency level standards that were set last year with WIDA. So the online process is going to be a better assessment. It has new items. It has a different scoring process. Part of it is scored on the computer. Part of it is hand scored. So therefore, it's really important that anyone who's administering the screener needs to go through the online training module so that they're scoring things like speaking and writing accurately. Because once you get into scoring EL speaking and writing, it can be quite challenging. So that training is really important for those who are administering the test. The process then is all scores are submitted to WIDA, and it will give you back a score report with a composite score and a proficiency level. So there's a link here in the PowerPoint to the online training module that needs to be completed for your test administrators. The technology requirements for Screener Online are the same as WIDA Access. So if you have testing sites at your schools that are set up for giving access, you will have a computer to give Screener as well. But the training will walk test administrators through all of that setup. We are doing a live training on September 13th from 8 to 4 at the state capitol. We're about halfway full to capacity for that training. So please, if you have people who want to attend the training, have them register online. That link was also sent out last night in the AD memo for the live training. Yes, Rebecca? Okay. Great question. Do students only screen once or each year? They only screen one time on their first enrollment in the state. So if you have, say, a student transfer from Granite to Salt Lake School District who has a WIDA score, you don't need to screen them because you know their proficiency level. They're screened on enrollment. If their home language survey indicates that a language other than English is spoken at home or to significant extent in their environment, that's what triggers the screener. And so all students fill out the home language survey. If another language than English is marked, that triggers the screener. If the student scores below a 5, then they are identified as an English learner. If they transfer from one LA to another and they're already identified as an EL and you know their proficiency level, you don't need to screen them. They're just an English learner. So only on first enrollment. I think that's it.
We're not going to read this slide to you, but we did want to make sure it was posted that you know when the statewide testing windows are and what they are, so that as you create your plan to submit on the survey, you know when all of the dates are. And so that's the most important thing. This slide basically has several, you know, when the keep is, how that works, and all of that. And now we'll get to, of course, the SAGE testing plan. It's really important to complete your plan prior to getting on the survey. I mean, you pretty much know what you have to tell us. And if you're not sure, click in the survey and then make sure that you know. Jared was a little concerned. He was starting to look at some of the uploads, and he said that some people are just kind of randomly like, oh, I think I might do this sometime. This is the official plan. It is different than we've done in the past where we kind of gave you a template. Some people used it, some people didn't. We're really trying to standardize this to make it simple for everyone. It gets more critical because some of the stuff, the enhancements we're putting in SAGE, you may not be able to test outside of, you know, hopefully that's going to finally work. And so if that happens, those dates are going to get put in. And so it's imperative that we have accurate dates to keep everybody from having stress, and especially in the spring. So this is the survey, and we will keep the live. Don't try to do it now if you haven't done it yet, because I do want to go in and update that question on SAGE for 11th grade, and I should have that done before the end of the day. So you know, and we only send one AD memo out a week, so everybody online, just give me a day, and then we'll send it out again. Just check the link, and it'll be live. Yes. Yes, if they did not, it depends on what school. Let me just put it this way. If you answered it and you knew all of your dates and nothing has to change, and you're not a school that's affected by, say, 11th grade testing, you're a K6 school and you know everything's accurate, no, you don't have to. That's your judgment. But if you know that you're going, wait, you know what, I didn't take it seriously, or I wasn't really sure, please go ahead and do that. We'll leave that to your judgment. So it's not required unless you're kind of iffy about what you did. Okay. UTIPS update. Really quickly, David, do you want to talk about what's loaded, or do you want me to just read it off my phone? You sent me the information about the UTREX upload. We are having some issues. We did find out that it's not you. It is us. Sorry. This is our favorite time of the year.
I don't know why you all laughed when I said USBE was the one that was dropping the ball. Okay. So for the most part, if your data, you know, it's coming in through UTREX, and if you're the person who can check that or not, you can see if it is. I know there have been a couple of issues with some LEAs. You know, this always seems to happen, certainly at the beginning of the year, where they're trying to upload, and it's just getting blocked for whatever reason. In those cases, you might have to contact your SIS vendor to work on that. We are getting data into UTREX that is not making it into the extracts, and it appears to be because the tables did not completely roll over, so there's still a lot of 16-17 data in there that it's not letting the 2017-18 data get in. I sent the list to Kim, but it's there's maybe like 5 LEAs that are getting anything in. And it's all charters. Davis is getting their SAGE data in, so Logan will be happy. Must be. Yeah, those are the only ones currently in. I've made our IT aware. They've got a lot on their plate right now. Provo is getting some data into one of them as well, I guess. Point being, so it's not you, it's me. We are, you know, it's, I mean, I hate making excuses, but a big thing is, you know, like, we didn't last year have to get Keep and Amplify going at this time of the year, and we're also behind on getting the accountability in. And I think IT does other things in this building besides work for me. They don't know it. I keep telling them they just work for me. But that's kind of where we're at right now. They are aware of it, and they recognize the importance and priority of it. So I'm hoping, you know, hopefully tonight we'll see if things have improved. If not, by first thing next week, I would very strongly hope that this should be resolved and we're getting the data that we're getting from you into our vendor systems. Yes, Teresa. Yes, that is. Yeah, make sure that you are getting us the data, because yeah, and then usually, you know, you can contact me, or you can, again, if like in the case you like Sage, you can contact the Sage help desk. Sometimes, usually what I do if there's data missing is that's the first thing I'll look at as well. Is I'll be like, well, did we get this data? And I'll look and it'll be like, well, we got the data from you, but it's not in the tables, so it's our problem. Or if it's in the tables, then I double check to make sure, did we send data? The automated process is still going, and IT will say, yes, it's going. Then I pass it on to the vendor and say, you guys aren't processing the data correctly. But yes, that's always a good first step before contacting us, is make sure that there's those reports in Data Gateway where you can see easily, you know, what we thought we sent, at least through Utrex. And if it's not appearing there, then you know that we're the ones who messed up. Which we do sometimes, you know. There's just so much data. It's so hard.
So, and David, is it going to be you they contact or Emily?
Both of us for the time being.
Awesome. I'm just making sure he knows that, yeah, Emily's going to need help. All right, so UTIPS update. Just so you know, UTIPS is still alive and well, and we spent some time this summer looking at the item bank. And the ELA item bank had not been looked at since 2011. So we had a group of teachers come and do an item review and alignment. And we finished it in 3 days, thanks to the ELA teachers. They even checked it for DOK level, although there isn't anything in UTIPS yet that indicates DOK level. We were pleasantly surprised. There were some issues that we used to have in the ELA bank, if you didn't know, where passages were unlinked with questions. And we think we fixed all of those. So the ELA bank is now available for teachers to use, and we encourage them to use it. Now remember, we also have new item types in UTIPS now, where there are hot text items where they can, and multi-select, and paired passage, where teachers can upload a secondary source for students and write questions with those. So there's a lot to do. The math item bank realignment is about 75% done. There's a stack of about this many papers left. Part of that is just because math took a little bit more time. There's a lot more stuff, and we just didn't get as many math teachers. We are going to do the same process with science once we get SAGE up and running. Doug is even writing cluster item questions. So for the SAGE item bank for 6-8, we are going to have some cluster items in there as well. The science realignment is huge. So it's going to be a while before that works. Yes? They need to email the UTIPS help desk, which is me. But it's UTIPS help desk. Just so you know, it's really me. And that's the easiest way. Here's a really big thing that the teachers who were in our item alignment and those of the specialists who were there, we were really surprised about. And there are a lot of teachers who created UTIPS tests over the years. And remember when we switched servers 3 years ago? They just switched their tests right back in, and they're still using it. And I had Doug run a report to find out how many teachers are still actively using tests for standards, that some of them back to 2006. And there's a lot. So it might be time to maybe send a little message like it's time to make sure you're actually giving tests to the standard you're supposed to be teaching. And, you know, I love teachers, but that was a little shocking. You know, when you're looking at 2009, what we're going to do is, the reason we're giving you some heads up on that is we are taking those standards out. We're going to eliminate them. We're pulling them, and we're going to do it probably mid-September. So it's time to get the message out to everybody. And, yeah, you may have teachers who get angry, but you know what? We kind of voted and said, you know what? Too bad. You know, we have current standards. Write some new questions or align to your standards, because that's just not a good idea. Yes. Sage, are they talking about UTIPS questions or SAGE questions? The new science are aligned, this year's SAGE aligned to the new standards, the interim and the bank. So what the question was is, are the science SAGE standards going to align to the new standards this year? Yes, they are, for everything, yes. Next question. SAGE benchmarks, I think they're fabulous, and I would absolutely use them. UTIPS is really the benefit of UTIPS is this. It's teacher created. It's Utah owned. Every item in there was written by a Utah teacher. That's who did it. Teachers who like using it. It's a basic, simple way to give some quizzes and tests. It's not designed necessarily to be completely summative, although some teachers use it. If it was my preference, and I was really concerned of whether my students were doing, teaching to the learning of the standards, I would probably use a benchmark test as a pre-assessment because it's pulling items from the interim bank and they're SAGE-like. But if I was going to be doing some quizzes along the way, I would probably use UTIPS as well. UTIPS is just an item bank that they can use that are aligned to standards. It's not supposed to replace one or the other, but I would, my preference probably would be to use benchmarks first. But there aren't that many forms in benchmark as well, so you're limited to the standards that are there. It's a fabulous system. I love the SAGE benchmarks. Way better than SAGE formative. I'll just say it, okay? And it can really be useful. And what's really good about it is it does, especially for like third graders, it gets teachers and students used to what it's like to take a standardized test when it's in a secure, non-secure environment, right? Because you still have to authorize the test. They still have to get used to having to type in a code. They follow all the same thing. But the benefit of the benchmark is the teacher then can look at their data. They can talk about it with the class. They can put up every question on the test that the students answered and say, hey, let's look at some misconceptions. You get a lot of instructional information from the SAGE benchmark that really aligns. And for this year especially, we really recommend that every single teacher give the writing SAGE benchmark tests because they are going to be on the new scoring engine, and the whole thing with copy prompt match, which we're changing the name of that. We haven't picked the name yet, but it's not going to be called copy prompt match. But that is going to show you immediately students who are literally typing the passages into their essays. And that's really what was happening. And so that's going to happen. And the benchmarks, as soon as they go live, which is supposed to be, I think, the 22nd, that is available, and we cannot emphasize that. Megan is back there. Megan's not feeling well today, so she's not talking. But seriously, that we cannot emphasize that enough, that somebody needs to do that and definitely have them do that. And we know there's only one writing prompt, but you can get an idea for where you need to go with instruction as a writing teacher immediately from seeing, hey, wait a minute, I had no idea. And that's really what caught people off guard. Okay? Does that help? Okay. Yes. Yes, Teresa. K-12. K-12 is UTIPS. 311. Yep. Yep. UTIPS is K-12. We're realigned. We realigned all ELA. All ELA is realigned. Almost all of math. In fact, I think what's not realigned in math, and I haven't looked at Todd handed me the stack and just said, this is what's done. I think it's upper division math that's not done. I think all elementary is finished. So, yes. It's the writing benchmark. It's benchmark for writing. We're not talking about literature or language. It's the actual benchmark that is for the writing test, where they are given a passage and a prompt and they have to write on it. So that was a great question. Yes, in UTIPS you get more grades. I mean, you get K1, 2. There's not a lot of kindergarten teachers that use it. Surprisingly, a lot of first and second grade teachers do like it, and they use it for different things. You know, it's our Utah-owned bank. We have it. We've been able to use some stuff with it. It is what it is. It's not the most robust system. It's not going to give you every single fine-grained piece of data that you want, but it certainly works for what it needs to work with. When you're creating UTIPS accounts, okay, it's really important. A lot of you last year, at least at districts, when we did the UTREC sync with UTIPS, entered your teachers in with CSV files and everything works. But teachers also can go in and create their own accounts. And it's really important when they're doing that they remember they have to put their Cactus ID number in. They have to have a system-wide username that matches their SIS name. It has to be the same, and it can be whatever it is. Some districts have assigned them, you know, like when I go in and look when somebody asks me why their account doesn't work or whatever, some people have last name, some people have first initial last name. They're all different, but whatever that is, it needs to match. And even though it's not required, it's always useful if they, in the drop-down menu where it says SIS system, once you put in their Cactus ID and their email addresses to their district, it's going to give you a choice if they're selected their role as a teacher to identify the SIS system. And it works really well if they just click down like, I'm a Weber teacher, I'm going to be on the Weber SIS system. Doug says it's not required, but I found through answering questions with help desk, it seems to work better. Like whatever that is, it's okay, but that's really where that works. And this is another really important thing. It's really essential that the teachers are teachers. The teacher role is, they are identified as a teacher role. They can also have the sharing teacher role, but the teacher role is essential or it doesn't sync. And he's going to fix that, but I don't know when that's going to happen right now. And so it's an easy fix. Just make sure if somebody says, it never syncs, every time I've gotten an email at the help desk with that, I've gone in and looked, and they're just listed as a sharing teacher. They're not listed as an actual teacher. So that's a tip that I found that works really, really well. Any questions about that? There's a lot of roles that were added in. Yeah, what Teresa just asked is she'd like to know like what all the different roles are. Doug and I have been looking at them. There's like 16 of them. And we're not sure what some of them are, and we're going to eliminate some of them eventually. It's just that that's not the highest priority right now. Right now, the priority is let's get the bank aligned, let's get our new item types, let's get that. But that is a great question, Teresa. What is sharing teacher? What's the difference? Some sharing teachers, the only thing that they were added in is they get access. It's a lot of CTE teachers because they have access to the CTE tests, which is kind of separate from me. I don't do a lot with the CTE people, just like the civics test. There is the wiki. We are going to be, I'm going to be sending out a doodle poll to some people. We're going to be updating a wiki now that we have all of our new item types, and so I'll be sending a doodle poll out, probably in an AD member. If anybody would like to come to the meetings, we're going to revise the wiki. It needs to get updated, but there's still really useful information in there, so I put the link to it because a lot of questions you can kind of answer. Some of the stuff with enrollment codes, and there's some stuff that's outdated in there. We are going to do a formative tools workshop. I had 2 scheduled, but I'm between the writing workshops and pathways and a lot of stuff. I have 1 scheduled right now. I will do another one, probably another couple, but I'm going to start in Richfield because who uses a lot of our formative tools is, I decided to pick a location kind of in the middle. So it's Richfield, and it's September 7th. In their district office, we're going to look at best practices for using things like how do you connect the benchmarks to Utah Compose to things like UTIPS. We will spend a little bit of time showing teachers how to get into the systems, but it's not a basic training. Yes, Rebecca. Yes. That is a question I don't know. David, do you know the answer to that? Data gateways. I have to enroll people in data gateways, so yes. The question was, When somebody is enrolling in the data gateway, do they have to use their first and last name as identified in their Cactus record versus their SIS system?
Okay. Pulled it off Data Gateway even, so I have it right in front of me. It only looks at 3 things when you self-register as a teacher in Data Gateway. The last name, but not the first name. So that's more likely not to, have a nickname, I would think. You might be Jennifer, but go by Jenny, but Smith, you don't go by Smith. Cactus ID, and then the last 4 of your SSN. Those are the required fields. So you can put whatever for your first name. I don't think it verifies off of it.
Yeah, and that is the biggest issue with Utah Compose, the 3 big issues. Their name has to match their Cactus record. They have to have the correct Cactus ID number, and of course they have to know how to multiply their social security number by itself, ignoring the zeros, which is, yeah, okay. Anyway, that's kind of how that works. And so this workshop is going to be pretty good. It's similar to some of the stuff I presented at Rural Schools, and I'm going to expand it just a little bit because I'll have more than an hour. And that, obviously, and we're going to spend some time looking at it, because one of the concerns we had last year when we launched SAGE benchmarks is we had some schools who actually gave every single SAGE benchmark the first 3 weeks of schools. I mean, every single one. All their kids did were take the, and at that point, just give the intern test. You know what I mean? I mean, it was kind of weird. And a lot of people aren't sure how it works, and they're kind of confused by the secure, non-secure aspect of SAGE benchmarks, like what can I do, what can I do? So, and we're going to do that. And then on top of that, when we do our writing workshops, which is going to be the next slide, we are going to actually let them play with some of the prompts so that they can see what happens with copy prompt match. And speaking of that, writing workshops, they are here. We obviously are as sad as you are that we can't give you a registration date. There's too many choices on the list to do a SurveyMonkey. It will just confuse people. Midas, as you all know, is supposed to launch the 1st of September. As soon as we get the word from Rick that we can assign courses and sessions, we promise, even if Megan and I have to stay up all night long, we will have those sessions and course numbers in there so that people can register. The one thing we might want to throw out, we are covering subs for that, but we can't pay travel. We're a little concerned because pretty much we're getting lots of emails from people like, we really want to come. We want to come to Salt Lake. We're not going to have unlimited access to Salt Lake, so some of you might want to, really pay attention to where we are. We really don't have the capacity to add very many more sessions. And remember, this is a 2-session workshop. If they come to the first one, they are committing to come to the second one. So that may help you weed out some people who are doing that, because we are really holding some of this. We want to really see them improving student writing, which is why the scoring engine and all that stuff is, we did all that. These are the dates. If they register for one, they'll be registering for the other one, so it's really important. Now, we did have a question. Somebody said, do I have to go to the same location? It may have to depend on how we have to set them up in Midas. They are committing to come to the second one. Maybe we can be flexible about if they can't go to Salt Lake, maybe they go to Provo for the second one, but that's not positive. Any other questions about the writing workshops? We're pretty excited about that. That's going to be an awesome thing. And believe it or not, we're going to end 40 minutes early because we are done unless anybody has anything else they need to ask any questions. Are there any online questions? Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Welcome. And no, we don't know who our new assessment director is, or he wants to know. We don't know any more than you. So thank you very much. And hey, good luck, everybody. School starts. I think July was the shortest July on record. Anybody feel that way? I was like one day. Yes, Rebecca. The writing workshops are going to be are being sent out to every single person we possibly can. We are sending it through ADs, curriculum directors, literacy directors, special ed directors. We are sending it out to everyone. However the listservs work, we have been collecting email addresses and names at every single thing that we have presented all summer long. And Shar, and give a shout out to Shar, has been keeping a very detailed spreadsheet for us. And as soon as we launch, we'll try to send a mass email out to all those people. But this information, we're depending on you. And by the way, this isn't just for English teachers. Okay, writing standards are for everyone. In fact, I've had more inquiry from science teachers than almost anybody else, just so you know. So, and